I think it's a great time to talk about climate. With 38 degrees C in London, I think it's about 10 degrees C above the average. I think it's really proof that climate change is happening. I think it's undeniable. I've seen some statistics. The trend is there. So, however, when I talk with colleagues in climate, I think it's, they say, there is now a bit of downturn for talking about net zero, energy transition. Now all the narratives are around resilience, defense, which I think is partially true, but also I think climate has a lot to do still for the economy. I think it's really about finding the business case for net zero technologies in the end. So today a very esteemed panel to talk about these thematics, also in a shifting global order. And I would like to give you as CVCs your moment to give your elevator pitch. When I was in CVC before, I was always doing my 1-minute pitch to the startups. That's the best you want to find. You have to convince them to work with you. So I would like to ask you to introduce you to the audience and tell them what you do, what you're excited about for net zero. Maybe starting here with Ricardo.
Okay, thank you, Lerico. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm with Repsol CVC. We are the strategic corporate venture arm of Repsol. This is a Spanish leading multi-energy company. We are a 50 million euro multi-year size fund. We work against the balance sheet. We invest, broadly speaking, everything related to sustainable energy, industry transformation, advanced mobility, and digital technologies applied to industry operations optimization and automation. We invest in Series A and tickets ranging between 1 and 5 million, geographically focused on the US and Europe. Thank you.
And Sebastiano?
Hi, everybody. So I'm from A2A. A2A is the largest multi-utility in Italy. It's a 100-year history company. We are the second largest producer of energy in the country. And A2A Lab Ventures, it's a company, it's the innovation arm, let's say VC arm of the group. We have more than 100 million of budget to invest in venture capital. We invest from tech transfer to Series B ticket, in this case with the Series A, Series B, with the new fund that we launched in partnership with 360 Capital, a VC firm with offices in Milan and Paris, is from 2 to 10 million. And we invest, of course, in energy transition and circular economy.
James?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Great to see you all here today. I sit within Microsoft's Climate Innovation Fund team. We're a fund that launched back in January 2020, $1 billion fund, which is designed to support our 2030 sustainability goals across carbon, water, waste, and ecosystems. We've allocated about approximately 806 million of capital so far across 67 investments. We do direct investments. We've got around 50 directs across energy systems, industrial supply chains, and natural systems. And then we also have about 17 or so fund manager commitments as well, including folks like Emerald Technology Ventures, who I know are in the room. And then our mandate is very much linked to procurement outcomes. So we have what we call an invest to procure mandate. So we look to be not only an investor, but also a deployer of the technologies that we invest in. So think, low carbon cement, green steel, SAF, various different technologies that we will use ourselves, or at least secure offtake for. Outside of that, we run a few partnership programs as well, which we can hopefully get into. But I think fundamentally, my role in the team is I head up our portfolio management function, which is essentially looking at how we are not only an investor, but a buyer, a technology partner, and a go-to-market partner to help our portfolio to scale.
Amazing. Thank you all. So let's dive right in. I think I mentioned a few moments ago 38 degrees C, but it's also another number. I think the price of oil has been skyrocketing, going up and down, a lot of uncertainty recently with the events that obviously changed a bit the world order, I think. It's not only things like the war in Iran, but also changing policies across Europe, US. Of course, with the change in administration recently, we had the change in the Inflation Reduction Act in the US, which has affected the discussion on net zero in the United States, also in Europe. On the other hand, much more talk about resilience, but also about climate, I would say, and reinforcing policies. So because you come all from different corporates, I wanted to understand how is this shifting global order changing a bit the narrative when it comes to investment? Is this having an effect yet? And what's been discussed behind the closed doors that you can share with the audience? Because that's what they want to hear from us. So yeah, how have the recent events changed your investment thesis in a nutshell? Who wants to start?
I will.
Yeah, go ahead, Ricardo.
Well, for us, the recent events, well, we have the Ukraine war, we have the Middle East supply threats, as well the US and the EU policy shifts have reshaped our investment thesis. As well, the race for energy sovereignty have accelerated the strategic deployment of capital, changing the investments in climate tech. So it has changed the way we understand the energy sector, transforming from a previous view of long-term sustainability goal as an immediate imperative to secure the energy trilemma, to achieve energy security, energy sustainability, and energy affordability.
Sebastiano, you think it's similar?
Yeah, I'm happy to say that we have not changed. We started as a U first, dedicated fully to climate tech, and we still are. Actually, it's in line with our 10 years industrial plan of our company A2A. It's a 23 billion investments into energy transition and circular economy, and it's one of, I think, the few companies that has a 10 years industrial plan. And why I'm saying that is because when you look at energy transition, in our opinion, it's something that needs long-term view. And despite the changes that you see, you need to be still and keep the direction. And there are fluctuations. There will be a new prime minister here, there. Of course, there will be slowdowns. We've seen it. So, of course, the market has been affected. But if you look at it, at the end of the day, the energy transition is something that I think it cannot be stopped. Overall, you've seen investment in renewables from Pakistan to China to Europe, US, in any case, is growing, right, in the last years. So I think we as let's say CVC, of course, we haven't changed the mandate. There are some funds here in Europe as well that started to see, as you said, a more dual use opportunities, which is legit. But I guess that if you start with that mandate, you go straight and you don't change direction.
Yeah, I mean, great point on the dual use side. That was a topic I was going to bring up as well, because recently with some of our other investors, or co-investors, I should say, the topic came up in terms of diligencing in the context of dual use, given what, I guess, recent wars. And I think the interesting dynamic in the room there was, like, we're an impact fund. And so, we are 100% focused on our sustainability goals. That is how we're measured. That is what we're committed to. And so whilst, different investors have different, I guess, core measures, and, whether it could be IRR or whatever, that was the first time for me, at least, that the defense and dual use topic came up. And so it was a really interesting conversation to think about, well, what does that mean for us in the context of if we come across a really interesting technology that is going to help us support our sustainability outcomes, but there's a risk there on the defense side, and whether that could be used for harm or used for other purposes that are detrimental to us as a organization or to some of our other investors. And so it was an amazing conversation, and I think it hasn't manifested itself in our own deal discussions yet, but as a kind of a community of investors, it was a fascinating topic, and I think the penny really dropped that we absolutely need to keep an eye on these types of scenarios and be asking those questions in the context of recent news.
But when it comes then to dual use, you didn't feel like pushback on these topics? Like when I was working in corporate before, I think there was also a bit of a concern that when you touch dual use, you might be sort of something that you want to keep away, I think, in a way. I don't know if you feel, I saw you saying yes.
Well,
James,
yes, in the sense of, I suspect we do. I mean, it hasn't come up internally in any of our work, but I think this external conversation just, I think, really brought it to the fore. And I think it was, at least for me, it was wow, that's a really good point. I hadn't personally thought about that yet, because a lot of our deals are just so far from that space. But things change.
Understood. Yeah, coming from the battery space, I think where we were interested in dual use is that it's a very good entry market in reality, because it's smaller volumes, often when we talk about batteries for drones and so on. The other point I wanted to touch on today is the challenging of scaling, because with dual use, maybe some of these companies have their entry market, but most climate technologies are in the end, asset heavy. So reaching scale is, and also in Europe, we don't have access to late stage capital. So in your different experiences, you come from different worlds which are complementary. How do you see, again, the next step for climate? So going maybe from, early stage low TRL to later stage. How do you support maybe your companies in scaling, or what's your view into scaling climate technologies? Is this really the big barrier to overcome? I don't know, maybe shuffle a bit, Sebastiano.
Yeah. Actually, I was talking with James before about one of our portfolio companies called Energy Dome. I guess you know them. I mean, for us, it's one of the best companies that we invested in back in 2021. And regarding this question, I think that now we as investors, but in any case, the whole ecosystem, let's talk about Europe, we need to really focus on that specific moment where, from the first of a kind on, you need to scale, right? And when it comes to first of a kind, which is actually, and hardware, which is actually where we focus in, you need more than one actor at the table. The biggest difficulty that we have seen today, and it was at the time for Energy Dome, and after that it scaled and had a lot of success and still having success, was to put together, first of all, the investors, private investors, and having the capital to grow. Corporates, who need to somehow approve the technology, to back the technology, and institutional investors as well. In the case of Energy Dome, when they built the first plant in Sardinia, in Italy, they had at the table European Investment Bank, private investors and corporates as well. And because of that, somehow there was a coordination of different parties that helped the company to make the biggest step. And that is the biggest problem or difficulty that we see when we invest in Series A, Series B companies that are close to first of a kind. And that's where we would like to fill the gap and put together these actors. And being a CVC, I think, gives additional value because, of course, you're strategic, because I don't believe in financial CVCs, actually, because it doesn't make sense to me, actually. Otherwise, why you make investments, right? Being a CVC gives a different and specific value because you have both souls, right? And you can somehow fill that gap that I was talking about. So I believe that these actors should work closely together more and more. And Europe is full of institutions like that. And CVCs and corporates and VCs together, they should make their part.
As investors, our role is also bringing value, so
exactly.
Very well.
Yeah.
Maybe James, do you want to tell us a bit about the programs as well?
Yeah, sure. So we've invested in a number of different first-of-a-kind facilities. So in green steel, in low-carbon cement, in SAF, etc. And I think scaling or the opportunity to help scale manifests itself in different ways within Microsoft. So, for example, the procurement side of what we do helps to provide a demand signal to the market. The press release that goes out the door to say this investment is also connected to X hundreds of thousands of tons of whatever the material is. But I think also advocating on industry standards, like in the case of cement and steel, it was energy attribute certificates, and so we partnered with I think it was Carbon Direct on co-authoring a paper around the importance of EACs and where they sit within the market when you're scaling first-of-a-kind solutions. And then we also run a few programs as well. So we recently announced the Data Center Innovation Initiative. We're partnering with Elemental and in fact, I think all of the other hyperscalers to de-risk and scale technologies at a much faster pace than has historically been done when an individual scale-up would be knocking on the door of one hyperscaler, then going to the next one. So looking to really streamline that experience for the scale-up, but then also scaled and de-risk pilots together as an industry, and in a way to try and smooth that entire process in terms of from pilots to scale. So yeah, a lot of work there. That the DCII program is our kind of US focused program, and we're looking forward to announcing a few more regional programs in the coming months as well, to focus on the other regions where we operate as well.
Amazing. And Ricardo, what about Repsol? What's your...
Well, yeah, I really agree with James and Sebastiano that there's need a strategic alignment between the investors, corporates, and public administration. Because there's no other way to move forward, and there's a need to avoid public administration delays, as well to avoid these different policy rules that we have in Europe, different across EU member states, and as well in Spain with different regions. We need more clarity, not so many policy shifts depending on the colors of the ruling parties, etc.
And in this last maybe minute that we have, this is a very flash panel, but I wanted to ask you maybe very quickly, just a few words or maybe a buzzword when it comes to net zero and decarbonization and so on. What are you excited about for the next year? So when we meet in 2027, what are you looking forward to? Or at the next GCV, what do you think will be the hottest topic that we'll be discussing about when we talk to net zero? Very quick. I know it's.
I actually think for me it's about portfolio maturity. So already we're seeing a lot of our portfolio reaching some major milestones, like Ever, a geothermal company we invested in. They hit first power a few months back in Munich. Conscious of time, don't want to eat into any more examples, but we're seeing a lot of those in the portfolio, and that's really exciting. So sharing more things like that next year would be fantastic.
Back happening, I think, right?
You see, we get along with James. We like a lot geothermal as well. Now we're focusing also on the data center world, being a utility and operating district heating. Everything that is connected to efficiency for data centers will be key for us. So I would say these two topics are super hot for us in the next months.
Ricardo, you can close.
For us, I would say water technologies. We have 5 industrial complexes in Spain, and the southern half of Spain lacks of rains. So our industrial processes consume a lot of water, so we need to optimize the whole water value chain.
So you heard it, geothermal, water, energy.
Yep.
Thank you to our panel. I think our time is up. Again, it was a very short panel, but climate tech is not dead. There is still a lot to do and a lot to scale. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.